So yeah, Avatar. When I saw that movie, I was like, the first one. I haven't seen the second one. I watched that movie actually 3 times. I went to the theaters 3 times.
Four.
4, yeah. I was very fascinated by it for whatever reason. But we are here to talk about fantasy football in general. Um, this is a new podcast called New World Fantasy Football. My name's Andrew. I'm with my co-host Paul Kiefer, and just what it takes. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about how I even had to just to get this going. And by the way, I hope these last because I was recording or recharging these for maybe 45 minutes. So I hope they don't die. I have a PC. I was trying to get these bastards, AirPods, sorry, Apple, don't sue me, to connect. I even turned off the Bluetooth on this here, my iPhone. Brand new. So there you go. Sponsorship points back. Had to break out this. This is my wallet, my George Costanza's fat wallet, just to pay to record this thing. So that's me. Tell me about yourself, Paul. Just in a few words, describe yourself.
Yeah. I am a fantasy football enthusiast, degenerate, and disappointed loser after the conclusion of this season.
As most of us are. Now, I do see that we are representing our teams, but you're also a Colts fan. Are you more of a Colts fan or more of a Bucks fan at this point in your life in general?
Yeah, and you've asked me this before, and I might have had a different answer at that point, but at this juncture, I'm more of a Bucks fan. Obviously, living down here in Florida, I have had a chance to actually go to the games a few times, so I think that has brought that fanship up more. Really, my Colts fandom got driven early on in my life by just my appreciation for Peyton Manning, and then I just started following the team. So I'm always going to love them. They always got a special place in my heart. Hate Jim Irsay right now. I think that I don't know if he's back on the pills or what, but I don't know what he's doing with this team, dude.
It's hard not to hate. I don't know about hate, but it's hard to get behind Jim Irsay because it seems like he has a lot of knee-jerk reactions. His world was turned upside down when Andrew Luck obviously decided to suddenly leave, and that has propelled them into the dark abyss, which has been, oh gosh, I mean, who was the first one they signed? Was it? It wasn't Rivers, right? Who was it? Was it Jacoby? Was it Brissett?
Well, they didn't sign. So the quarterback carousel was
who was in after Luck directly the next year?
I think. And then Jacoby Brissett, I think, was already, or no, we got him from the Patriots. And then it was Phil Riv, and then freaking Carson Wentz, which I couldn't think of his name for a second because I want to delete that memory from my mind. And then cooked Matt Ryan. So I guess Derek Carr next.
Maybe. And it seems to me like that could make sense. Derek Carr there's a few places I think Derek Carr could end up going. It seems all but a foregone conclusion that he is out of Las Vegas, not Oakland. Still, years later, I want to say Oakland. The Chargers somehow have come around to say Los Angeles.
Yeah.
But I want to say Oakland Raiders, and that's just not true.
Although I've been to San Diego, and I think I would like that city better.
I have not been to California at all. But, so yeah. Main topic, well, I got a few topics I'd like to talk about. So, number one, or I'd like us to talk about, not just me. The number one thing is we've been hearing it all week since Monday, of course. Damar Hamlin. The news on him is all positive, and that's fantastic. So we just so happened to decide to start this podcast / YouTube thing probably like 2 or 3 hours before that actually happened. So yeah. And then game starts, gets about halfway through the first quarter, and real talk, somebody almost died on the NFL field, which hasn't happened.
Did die on the NFL field.
But wow, yeah, actually, yeah, you're right. He was resuscitated. So pretty insane. The first time I've seen that in my life, hopefully the last time I see that in my life.
Really upsetting. I actually, so when I find out that my teams are out of it or my fantasy teams are out of it and all that stuff, I go on a football cleanse. I don't want to see it. I don't want to hear about it. I completely disengage. I was actually replaying Zelda Breath of the Wild when this happened. Just literally anything that will take my mind off of football. And my phone starts doing a solo spin, next to me, the group chat going crazy. And I don't see the words, but I know it has to do with football because what else would we talk about that much? So I flip on the game. Everybody's on the field, the prayers, the tears, all of the things. And dude, it's intense. That's really scary, but glad he's doing better, man. Obviously, I don't know. I'm no doctor. I have no idea what that actually means in terms of how he's going to progress from this. But the fact that he's talking and moving around and doing what he needs to do, you saw that thing where he asked who won. That was the first question.
That's pretty funny, man.
Get that man
I did not see that, actually. I did not see that. That's cool.
That's a gamer.
Absolutely, man. I mean, now I've had nothing near that level, but I remember getting a concussion playing football, and I woke up and I asked if the Steelers won, and that was a Super Bowl from multiple years before. So his injury wasn't to the head, but it absolutely affected the brain, could have affected the brain, being as there was no oxygen or blood being pumped to it. Yeah. That's about as far as my medical knowledge goes, so I won't pretend to be one. But anyways, it's been talked about to death in football. We've just spent 10 minutes or so on it. The question therein remains, or it seems like it's mostly been cleared up between most leagues, but in a situation like this, what do you feel is the best way to go about the fantasy implications, being that it was most people's last week and the last game that was going to be played to determine any kind of fantasy outcomes?
So I assume that when you're asking this is how do you handle championship weeks that had players involved in that game?
Yeah, exactly.
You either won or you didn't win, in my opinion. I know it sucks. That's a really trash way to go out in the championship. Yeah. You don't really get the chance to fight, right? We had this situation happen in our league. The Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase stack could have hit those numbers, should have hit those numbers, some would say, but they didn't. So to me, winner wins, loser loses. It sucks. It's a bad beat in fantasy, and for me, it's as simple as that.
So yeah, my take on it, and I respect that take. I feel like that is one way to go about it. I also feel like if somebody had, let's just say they were 5 or 6 points out and they had Joe Burrow, or they had on the other side, Josh Allen, whatever. And that's like as close to a guarantee as you could possibly get. And you lose because of a freak accident. I think the last time anybody died on an NFL football field was roughly 50 years ago. For a game to not be continued by the NFL, that's like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
Almost never happens. So, they'll do quite a lot to make sure a game goes on. I think the NFL did the right thing. But anyways, besides that, like I was suggesting the players in one of the leagues that we play in is kind of a sudden death where you pick a few players that are going to play week 18. Maybe you restrict like quarterbacks. You just do like skill positions, no defense, no kicker. You pick 3, go from there. And then we had another league where it was a ridiculous blowout win. And the guy was over like 140 points without even having Josh Allen, and there was no chance of
there's
opponent
really
winning.
a conversation to be had there.
Yeah, I was like, okay, he won clearly. The last game of the week was just a formality at that point. So it was a blowout victory. It was like he was winning by like 70 or 80 points. So that one's pretty obvious. But yeah, so there's a lot of ways to go about it. I guess when it comes down to it, that's just every situation is different, and every league has to handle that in different ways. So to fantasy football, particularly going into next year, some of the big questions I have are where does the quarterback carousel kind of end up? And does it matter? Like, for instance, let's say Brady ends up on, God, I wish he would just retire, but let's just say he ends up in Vegas. Crypto didn't work out for him, I guess, FTX, so now he's going to go to the casinos in Vegas. I don't know. Just speculation at this point. But does that matter to you in terms of assuming Devonta Adams is staying, assuming Josh Jacobs stays? Does that make a difference to you? To those players, does it elevate Darren Waller? Huh?
So if he goes to Vegas?
Like, obviously it's major speculation here, but like who are those players that you are very, how do you say, like, it's hard to determine what their value is going to be next year.
Concerned about, not sure what to do in drafts. Like that's what we're doing. Yeah. I mean, so to answer the first question, to me in Vegas, I think the problem was largely McDaniels more than Carr. So I'll be even more transparent. I lost $100 on a bet for Devonta Adams, basically value going from Green Bay to Vegas. So I feel like it would be remiss for me to like bet against Devonta Adams again and maybe lose again. He's pretty damn good. So yeah, I don't know that it moves the needle a whole lot. I'd be afraid. I mean, let's call it what it is. People don't want to talk about it. I'm a Bucs fan myself, but Brady could barely support the fantasy assets that he had in Tampa. And that was the team that won the Super Bowl 2 years ago. So there's concern there. I don't know if like the cooked monitor can be used like 100% for Brady, but it's concerning. These quarterbacks that change teams, we always look for the savior for the fantasy assets. Russell Wilson killed us all in different leagues in different ways. I know you and I both have had the pain of that. So it can go either way. I don't think it would change much if it happens. I don't think it happens. I don't think Brady goes there. I don't think anybody goes there. I think they have to fully blow it up. They don't have talent on defense. The talent that they do have on offense is all tied up in skill players. I think it's full reset mode in Vegas.
Full. Oh, in Vegas. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought you were talking about Tampa for a second. I was like,
no, I was talking about
team.
Tampa, but I kind of jumped back and forth.
Tampa, Tampa is a de facto playoff team.
That could happen. That could happen in Tampa too, to be honest, which would be very sad for me.
Yeah, let's keep it with Vegas for now. I think you're right. I think McDaniels is an absolute sham of a coach, and it's very rare to see the QB get fired, not the coach get fired. Maybe McDaniels gets fired anyway. Who knows? I mean, if maybe Mark Davis needs to go to a new hairstylist, and he can give him some advice on how to run his multi-billion-dollar franchise.
They need
that he acquired from Daddy,
and put some racist emails in there or something just to get him out of town. That's Gruden out.
And you know that I'm a Gruden fan, so
like that. I know it's a bad situation, but I just
whatever. I mean, it's the truth. That's the kind of stuff that's going to get people canned. Whether it was 100% true, 50% true, 0% true, that comes out.
Can't do it. Not when you're a public figure. Can't do it.
No, it's and I know Gruden comes from that old school where you can joke about that stuff, or you can just say that stuff, and no one's really gonna bat an eye. So, anyways, we're not trying to be a politics channel here, but so then let's just say another hypothetical. If Derek Carr ends up in the lesser of the New York teams, or New Jersey teams, I should say, how much do you love Garrett Wilson?
You don't like to talk about?
Huh?
I said that green team you don't like to talk about?
I'm not a Jets hater at all, but the history over the past 40 years, 50 years, whatever it is, Giants are the better franchise. I mean,
they've
proof's in the pudding on that one.
They've won Super Bowls since I don't know, Joe Namath's guarantee back 8 million years ago.
Yeah, I think it was Super Bowl III that they're still hanging on to. They're still hodling Super Bowl III.
I like Carr. I think he's above replacement level. If he goes to the Jets, yes, it's better. It's better for Wilson, better for Brees. It's better for everybody. Zach Wilson's level of suck is so complete that I don't know very many quarterbacks around the NFL that could go to the Jets and not make the situation better.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. What a shame for the Jets. Jets, everything, fans, players, coaches, everybody involved in the Jets. That another was Sam Darnold number 2 overall pick? I think he was. Yeah. He was very high.
I was trying to think if he was number 1. I think he was.
No, that was. I'm pretty sure that was Baker Mayfield that year. I think it was Baker, and then Sam Darnold.
Who's worse, Baker or Darnold?
Man, that's a hard one to say. Recency bias, they're both kind of having a mini resurgence on their teams that aren't playing for much. And is McVay really that good of a coach that he's helping Mayfield right away? I don't know, man. That's a hard one to say. So I have a question about some other kind of, one guy in particular who has a very peculiar season. Does he stay with his team? He has upwards of 130 targets, and he has 0 touchdowns. Do you know who I'm talking about?
130 targets, 0 touchdowns.
And he's a number one wide receiver for a team. Obviously, 130 targets kind of says that. But
Oh yeah, that's Deontay.
that's correct. Deontay Johnson, like, assuming he stays with the Steelers, which I have a feeling he doesn't.
I think he does. They got rid of Claypool, and I feel
That's
like
true.
now the path is there for Johnson to stay.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. The ousting of Claypool for him to be useless in Chicago. How much is that his fault? I don't know. Claypool does he become the number one receiver in Chicago? Do they draft somebody? Do they sign somebody
De facto,
like
he
Darnell Mooney?
But I think
Darnell,
that's unfair. I guess Darnell Mooney is still the number one. I think he's proven more at the NFL level, like truthfully, and just has a better rapport with with Fields. They have to address receiver, I think, this offseason and get more. I know that Claypool was kind of their big signing, but he's a big-bodied receiver. I think he helps Fields, but just in that offense and the way they do things, I also hope that he likes blocking.
Yeah, that I haven't sat there and watched a bunch of Steelers games or second half Bears games, second half of the season Bears games. So I'm not really sure. Like, his body type doesn't really seem like he's a blocker, but that doesn't mean that he can't get in somebody's way, and just doesn't take much. You got a good running back who just needs a little bit of space.
Yeah.
You just knock a guy off his base, and there you go. I mean, you can spring a running back. It's not, it's not like it doesn't take him to be a seventh O lineman out there.
How and I kind of I'm musing as we're talking here, but there's question marks all over the league. Like Deontay is a question mark. Is he going to end up scoring some touchdowns? Does Kenny Pick take a next leap? I don't know. But there's all sorts of question marks. Like, okay, like fantasy drafts come around, first round, I think we're going to see more receivers than we normally do. What do you do with Kupp?
And that brings me into the next thing I really wanted to talk about was these major stars, these first, maybe second round picks in fantasy who are big question marks. So you brought up Cooper Kupp. Yeah, I think that Cooper Kupp, if Cooper Kupp makes it back on the field this year, meaning if he did and they didn't just say throw in the towel this season, just let Kupp just chill and be healthy and whatever, we'll try to run it back next year. I think if Kupp makes it back on the field, even if it's with, I guess it's Baker Mayfield now, and they had that few weeks of John Walford who basically threw him into a hospital ball or whatever happened. I don't know. I know that fantasy players will always blame their crappy backup QB for getting their receiver who's a megastar hurt. Well, the number one thing that I wish that Cooper Kupp would change is those damn mutton chops. They are terrible, disgusting. Dude, why?
Because he can get girls without them. That's the magic, and I think that's the biggest flex imaginable. Is that Mark Davis, I can have the worst haircut in the world, but I got money, I got fame. What's up?
That's true. That's true. I mean, wasn't there a few weeks ago that he was sitting next to some pretty damn good-looking chick? Do you remember that? Did you see that?
I didn't see it. It doesn't surprise me.
I mean, who knows? I don't know who she was, but probably just some Instagram girl looking for clout or whatever. But what I mean, he was sitting next to some probably in her 20s, maybe early 30s. I don't know, but cutie for sure.
Sounds nice.
But you're right. You're right. And but when it comes to the fantasy production, I think if Kupp is still on the field, if he comes back, let's just say he came back week 14, and he's playing with Mayfield, think Mayfield may have showed up week 15 for, I don't know exactly the timeline. Is his upside going to be as much as it is with Stafford? Well, no. But he is going to still get hyper targeted. And, maybe they're not down the field as much. But I still think, Cooper Kupp is getting 12 to 15 targets a game, maybe catching 7 or 8, getting you 80 to 90 and a touchdown almost every week. Because why would McVay not game plan his best receiver?
12
by a mile.
15 is a ton. Was he even getting 12 to 15 this year?
I mean, go back and look at it. I'm pretty sure he was. It felt like it because every Rams game that you watch was like, I can close my eyes and someone just tells me it's a passing play. I'll be like, how many yards did Cooper Kupp gain? Or was it at least a Cooper Kupp target? And it's like, it felt like 80% of the times it was. I mean, you remember how at the beginning of the season we thought Allen Robinson would be a thing? Do you remember that?
I didn't. I don't remember that because I didn't. Allen Robinson absolutely
You're dead to me, Kyle. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. 2021 Allen Robinson burned me, so he was dead to me this year. So I didn't think that. But yeah, a lot of people did. Well, it's the rise of the slot receiver that we've seen, right? Like you're able to be a big body, effective receiver in the slot and almost be quarterback proof, maybe. Like just because you just are able to route people in the middle of the field so well that you're just going to get volume.
I think that, and I also feel like with Cooper Kupp specifically, it's definitely a comfort thing and a security blanket thing. Stafford was running for his life. Well, not really running, but just scared for his life because that O-line started breaking down early in the season, and they just were getting so much pressure. It was pretty crazy because Cooper Kupp was the only real productive player for fantasy on that team, and he was scoring still 20-plus points a game. Everyone around him was doing nothing, and still playing a defense against the Rams was a smart play with Stafford, with Kupp.
Yeah,
which is weird.
The piper has to be paid. It happened with the Bucks to some degree. It big time happened with the Rams. You have all these veterans sold out on draft picks. It's the piper's getting paid this next season, and as much as I love Kupp, I have a feeling that his price tag in the draft is probably going to be too rich for my blood. I think is my conclusion there.
It's been there for me for a long time, and I think that we've heard this between like with other fantasy talking heads and experts, analysts, whatever you want to call them, ourselves included. Right now that we started a podcast, we're experts, but like, does Now I lost my train of thought.
Well, tell that to my no championships this year.
Hey, me too. Right, in the same book. But how much of the bias do we bring in every season? Like you just said it with sorry, these things suck. Falling on my ear. You just said it with Allen Robinson. You were very much against him because you have past negative experiences with that player on your team. So you don't want to draft him. For me, I've had a Cooper Kupp bias since he got drafted in the NFL. And it's because of one reason, and it's because he had a late breakout age. And that is something you see across the boards for players going into the NFL. Like if they are a late breakout kind of player, usually like 99 out of 100 times, they become kind of a replacement level player. And Cooper Kupp, even in college, I don't remember what school he went to, but I don't think it was a huge school either.
No, and he like I hear what you're saying, He's an exception. I think he's an exception to the rule.
Yep.
But yeah, you're always going to be worried about that, and you're going to be focused in on your process and early breakouts, high draft capital, players that had that production profile in college, right? Like all that stuff matters. And 8 out of 10 times you're going to be right when you pick based on that. There are those guys that break the mold. I think Cup is a guy that breaks the mold. But I think you and I are both on the same page here. Like he's 29. How old is Cup?
Well, let me check. Since I'm his dad, let me check birth certificate. No, I think he's in that range. I think he's 29. Maybe he'll be. If my math is correct, he'd probably be 30 next year.
Yeah, I don't want that. Love him to death. Would love to have him on my team. He's probably going to go in the first 2 rounds pass.
Yeah, I feel like I would take him at the end of the first, early second if he was there. I think Stafford's coming back though, and like I don't care how bad of a team you are. If you're a good player and you have a quarterback with like a decent arm and a good coach that schemes you wide open from all over the field and moves you around, he is such a gigantic part of that offense that like,
oh yeah,
we already saw it this year. The Rams were losing games. They looked like crap on offense, but Kupp was getting 20-point plus performances every week.
Yeah. I love him for that aspect. And I hear what you're saying. I'm afraid. I'm really afraid. And I think that I end up lower on that debate because I personally think Staff hangs it up.
That's a possibility, but the last I heard was he was on his wife's podcast and he said, and they both said he's not retiring because he's making too much money. And we need to, make sure that our kids get to college. So another question, another player, and we'll go faster now. Is Jonathan Taylor a first rounder next year?
Yes.
10-team league. We play in 10-team league, but 10 or 12, it's not that different. Yes.
Yes, he is. Yeah.
Okay. What running backs? I'm not even going to say receivers. Or a quarterback if you're a crazy person or whatever. Or tight end if you want Kelsey that bad. Anyways, what running backs are ahead of him come next year?
Loaded question.
I know 2 off the top of my head. That's easy.
Caffrey
and Eckler. Yep.
And man, that's tough. That's tough because I feel
Derrick Henry?
That's what I wanted to say, but like I feel like there's going to be a moment when that shoe drops with Derrick Henry, right? There has to be that moment at some point.
I've been waiting for 3 years.
Yeah,
I've been waiting for 3 years. Scared to draft him for 3 years.
I know.
Wrong every time.
And I've been wrong every time. But I'm not going to be wrong every time. That's the thing. Everybody was talking about Brady until this year.
How long? Yeah, but it goes to show you, like, is it just futile to try and predict major fall-offs in production, or should we just, like, the philosophy of it, should we be like try to be Nostradamus of this is the last year that so-and-so is going to be a major fantasy producer, or should we just say, play it simple, stupid. He was good last year. He's good this year. Don't care.
Yeah. Well, you're not Nostradamus, but I mean, you are hitching your wagon to the horse with the number 1 pick, and it's the least amount of risk at that point, which brings me to one of my questions. 0 RB truthers taking their victory lap this year. Receivers
we should probably do We'll do an entire episode. You know what? Since it's so important to you, episode 2 will be all 0 RB.
Yeah. But I
We'll
have
talk
about that. Stay tuned.
I mean, you've got the so like if you had Jerick McKinnon, obviously, on your final roster.
I didn't.
Jerick McKinnon. Yeah, me either, because I had him 6 years ago.
Circle Jerk McKinnon.
But yeah, the Circle Jerk McKinnon himself. Another very late breakout on a great team that schemes him open and uses his strengths well, and blah blah blah. You know, all the reasons are there.
They just choose the fantasy producer. They have the luxury. They just choose who's going to be good. They don't care.
No, they're just like, you know what? I like his name better. Like I when I go to the broadcast, I don't want to hear Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I want to hear Jerick McKinnon. So I'm just going to put him in. Like, you've got a journeyman running back versus your first round pick
with touchdowns in the year. Even though, you know, he's been plotting and hasn't been good, he was a fantasy producer first half
in the beginning of the year. Yeah. I mean, like the first 4 games. Like, by the way, I totally called that on my my chug video. Like, he's gonna fall off, and he fell off hard. But in which way did he fall? He fell off. He fell off to a rookie 7th round pick and a free agent signing by the Chiefs.
Well, what's the?
He's a 1st round pick.
What? Yeah, that's sad. That is sad. I'm trying to think of that.
And he was a 1st round pick. He was a 1st round pick by Andy Reid. Sorry to interrupt. It's not like he's a new regime. Like, no, it was by Andy Reid.
Did not work out. I don't know. I really don't know what the problem was, because his first season, I don't feel like was that bad. I don't remember exactly what the stats ended up being, but I had him. It was disappointing, but it was not the most tragic Trent Richardson type of complete fall off like that. It was probably a little volume based too, but I don't know. Like, I have no idea what happened there and why he just completely lost that job. But Pacheco and McKinnon did perform better. They look better. The team's been better.
Yeah. CEH, I think he got hurt. And I feel like maybe Jerick McKinnon maybe just fits what they want to do a little better, because he's got to be the best receiving back on the team, right? So
yeah,
if that is true, Mahomes, they want the ball in Mahomes' hand. Like, whether it's pass through or run through the air, so to speak, or Mahomes finds one of his 5 receivers or Travis Kelce down the field, like, he's providing them such a great weapon underneath and then picking up yards after the catch. So that's great. Other players?
I didn't have any shares of CEH, but I would tell anybody that did, sell, like the show, sell.
Yep. Any big players, let's say first 2 rounds in fantasy, that you feel have major question marks next year?
Brees.
You think Brees Hall?
Yeah, I think.
I wouldn't say he was a first 2 round pick this year, though. This past year, meaning. Not like first round.
First 2 round picks from this past year, or what I project could be a first couple.
So basically what I guess the question I'm asking more so is, like, who's moving up into the top 2 rounds and who's falling out?
You're saying,
at least based on our prediction.
This year to next year. Okay.
Yeah.
So I won't go there. Okay. Aaron Jones is a guy that I'm thinking about and looking at. Love Aaron Jones. I think that he's the type of player that you draft, you understand you're going to ride a little bit of a roller coaster. It's been that way. I had him too, like, past 3 seasons. Season-long production is always there. It comes kind of hit and miss, like, among games, but Just kind of overall everything that happened with the Green Bay offense this year gives me a little bit of pause, and just like the general unpredictability of like Aaron Rodgers' mental state. I just don't know that I'm confident enough to give Aaron Jones the top 2 round pick investment that I think it will take to get him next year.
I think that's a really good example. Pretty much echoing what you're saying. A lot of question marks there. Obviously, he has held off A.J. Dillon to some extent, but that's also a very frustrating
He's still
player
looming.
to own.
He's still looming.
He's still looming, and he's, I don't want to go as far as to say Mike Tolbert because he's more productive than that. 5 yards, 3 touchdowns kind of guy. But there are those games so we'll get personal here, right? I traded away Miles Sanders this year pretty much on the frustration, which is not a good idea, by the way.
Frustration
players don't trade away your players just because you're frustrated. Even though we do it every year. I traded him away because I was so sick of him getting vultured by one of Gainwell. I'm forgetting his first name now. What is it?
Ken Gainwell.
Kenneth Gainwell. Boston Scott has shown up only when he plays the Giants, so he's going to go off this week. And of course, the number 1 running back, Jalen Hurts. So I'm like, dude, I really like having running backs that get the ball on the goal line. That's really nice. And maybe I'm just like an old geezer where, I started playing fantasy football back in 2003, 2004, and that was just so standard. I have Jamal Lewis. If they're on the 1, he's getting the touchdown. That's it.
It's not. There's not many.
It was just so.
Derrick Henry is that guy, but
Derrick Henry. Josh Jacobs this year. He's one that's a good example too of someone who's coming up.
Oh yes, I want to talk. Okay, I want to talk about that because this is going to be an interesting debate. The value that people got from Josh Jacobs. I was out. I think you were out. Our whole league was out. Except for one guy, gets him in the crazy late round.
5th or 6th round. I think it was 5th or 6th round.
Maybe. Crazy late based on his season-long production this year.
Oh, yeah.
We took him all the way to the chip. Whether somebody wants to put an asterisk on it or not is a different conversation.
We're just speaking about his production, not what he, doesn't matter what fantasy team he was on that produced in what way. Josh Jacobs, period.
Should be a 1st-round pick next year based on production, but I'm scared and I don't think I will. Why?
You're asking me?
Yes.
Okay. So
I guess give me your guess as to why and if you agree or disagree.
So I don't think that you're alone in that. I am right there with you. Yes, is he he's at the very least, I feel like he has to be a 2nd round pick next year at the very least. I think
he goes before the turn. I mean, 25 years old? He's not that old.
Yeah, it's not even an age thing for me. It's just the mileage on him by now is pretty high for a 25-year-old running back. Number 1, Josh Jacobs, I believe he was an Alabama back too, who got a lot of carries.
But he has a lot of the things you like, right? He, big school, production profile, early breakout age, a lot of things to like there.
Hey, dude, I loved him coming out. It's not, I've been a Josh Jacobs fan for since he got drafted, really. Since
Mhm.
before he got drafted. And this is the first year I faded him because just the surrounding pieces, and they drafted Zamir White out
All
of
that,
Georgia. What's that?
all the noise around him this
Yeah,
this offseason
the off,
scared anybody.
and then he starts the Hall of Fame game. It's
Yo,
like starts a Hall of Fame game. They drafted a running back. Like, and I don't remember like where Zamir White was drafted, but like people liked Zamir White.
day two or day three. It wasn't a crazy high pick, but high enough to cause concern with all the rest of the noise happening.
Yeah. So like the typical indicators that a player's usage is going down were all there, and then the season started.
Yeah.
So like, you know, and then you've got a guy.
I mean, they got us. They got us.
They got us. And then there's a guy who was drafted right around the same area, who I drafted, in Damian Harris, who was a touchdown machine last year. And I always knew, like, I mean, everybody did. There's a reason why he wasn't a first or second round pick. That Ramondre Stevenson was right on his heels. And injuries happen, and you know, as much as we like to say injuries don't make you lose your job, well, that's bullshit. Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. Look, Tom Brady's the ultimate freaking. I mean, that was inevitable. But when it happened, Drew Bledsoe was playing just fine.
Yeah, and we knew Ramondre was looming too. But I understand the pick. Damian Harris was still effective, was the first man up at the goal line, where he was being drafted. It made sense. You drafted another Damian right around there too. I'm curious how you feel about him going into next year.
Yeah, so Dameon Pierce, he is obviously increased his draft stock. The question is, and this is going to be ongoing, of like running back rankings, right? Because I think the question that to answer the question on Dameon Pierce, you have to answer the question of who are you taking before him, you know? So obviously you can take those first round big names out. He's not going ahead of a Derrick Henry.
Oh.
I don't think he even is going ahead of a Joe Mixon. But when do you start to talk about Dameon Pierce as a legit, like, fantasy option? I don't think he's in the first two rounds next year. I think he's a locked-in RB2 for your roster is how you want it. You know,
Yeah.
I think if you have Dameon Pierce as your one, it's scary because he's got talent. He can score touchdowns. He's their goal line back. That could always change. I doubt it based on his play style.
He runs.
They're not going to the Texans aren't going to go into a draft or into free agency like we need a real power back. This guy's like a 90% power back. We need 100%
on their team that they have figured out.
That's not true. Jeff Driscoll is a QB3 from around where we're around too, our hometown. Well, maybe not hometown, but our growing up town.
Yes, man. Driscoll. Good for him.
Yep.
Good for him.
Hey, man, he's out earning us. I can't hate on somebody who's out earning me like by that much. So, not hating, but I think they'll keep Driscoll around as a gadget player. Why not? Yeah. Who knows, man? I mean, that's such a whatever kind of.
Driscoll is going to dominate the local flag football team very soon.
Man, you know, he'll be scary. He'd be scary.
Oh my God,
he can run too, because he can run.
No, that's what I'm saying. Can you imagine trying to yank that dude's flag? Toss it over.
It's like one of my favorite quotes. One of my favorite quotes in sports that any athlete has ever said, and that is no other than the myth, the man, the legend, Brian Scalabrine. I am closer to LeBron than you are to me. which is
Yeah,
true. He proved that.
and knowing 100% the challenge. I remember that. No,
Yeah,
and
he
true.
proved
Look,
it.
I'll tell you this right now. I'm a terrible athlete. I suck. So
We've gotten better over the years.
Jeff Driscoll is like if there's a like range and there is a slug and Josh Allen. Jeff Driscoll's like here, and I'm like here.
Except for in every video game that I make where I'm a QB. I'm
Yes.
so much better. But no,
My players like all maxed out.
I mean, I keep it realistic. I'm like, my arm strength was never that good, but my accuracy and pre-snap reads were decent. But whatever. Anyways. Enough about my ego. Enough about my ego. But anyways, so yeah, man, that is a lot of questions to answer. But just to bring it back to Dameon Pierce, we'll finish that topic off. I feel like Dameon Pierce is going to be very subject to what does the Texans offense look like.
Agreed.
After the offseason. Like if are they in the Derek Carr sweepstakes? Like, do they want another guy named Carr?
No, they're gonna
as their QB.
I think they have to draft one of these big QBs. They have to.
Every draft place says Bryce Young is the number one pick. So there you go.
So it's like address quarterback with it will be an improvement. To what degree, I don't know. It will be an improvement.
And it'll be Bryce Young because they're not gonna I don't think they're an attractive place for a veteran QB, number one.
Yeah.
Number two, why not just build your roster with a cheap rookie quarterback?
100%. And so I see them similarly to the way that I wanted to see Jacksonville last year. Which didn't happen. Thank you, Urban Meyer.
Urban Meyer. The urban legend, Mr. Meyer.
Yeah. At least the lap dance was funny. So I see
that was pretty weak.
It was just funny the way that whole story came out, and like the players all had something to say about it. Yes, it was a weak lap dance. Not much of a not much.
I've seen
to be honest,
I've seen better lap dances in a Virginia rest stop than that.
I know you have, former trucker. Maybe some other things as well. But the Texans, they're going to get O-line. They're going to get an O-line person. They're going to get a quarterback, so they can't be worse. I think Dameon Pierce is a great RB2 option. If he's your RB2, I think you're going to be happy. Running back's a young man game. I love drafting younger running backs. So I think you're happy if Dameon Pierce is your RB2. And if you build your team heavy on receivers, heavy on the other top guys, I don't think he's really a bad option to have in your RB1 slot if you're the team that goes Justin Jefferson, Stephon Diggs at the turn.
Absolutely. Justin Jefferson, he won't be there, but I know what you're saying. Though. I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying. It's just a name.
Jamar Chase.
Whatever. Devontae Adams.
Yeah.
If you go Devontae Adams, Cooper Kupp on the back of your first round, second round turn, then you're fine drafting Dameon Pierce and I don't know, J.K. Dobbins, and saying, well, hey, if these guys even meet their ADP, my RB room is fine. Obviously, you're going to be picking up RBs every single week. Like all of us are fighting over RBs every single week.
I think we're back in danger of getting into the zero RB discussion, so I won't do that.
We're going to have a big discussion on that.
Thoughts for sure.
Last thing I want to say, just to real fast, I just want you to say a name. I'm gonna take two names and next year who you draft. All right. Like, no explanation. Who are you picking out of these two guys? You ready? Eckler, McCaffrey.
McCaffrey.
All right. Najee, Kenneth Walker.
Ken.
Kenneth. All right. Devontae or Jamar?
That's a good one. That's a good one. Give me Jamar. I want him attached to the better quarterback.
Okay. George Pickens, Treylon Burks.
Pickens.
Jonathan Taylor, Cooper Kupp. Mixing up the positions here.
This could be homerism, but give me JT.
I'm with you on that one too. JT, I think, is going to bounce back. I will actually go Burks over Pickens. I'm also in your camp with Jamar because, I think the explosive games can be more consistent with Joe Burrow. Najee and Ken Walker, just because he's got the juice, I think that's going to be really insane. And I'm going CMC just because I love CMC.
Yeah. Look, those are all close. So I don't fault anybody for going a different way on either of those. I think those are personal preferences, but pretty much for every one of those picks, my initial thought was, except for CMC, my initial thought was, how old are they? Because if you're that close, I don't know. I'm just the nature of football. I'm going to have a tendency to lean towards the younger athlete. That's just me personally.
Sure. And that makes sense. But all right, man. Hey, it's been an episode, the first one, the inaugural
We had
fantasy football.
With a little sound check prior, but
hey, everything's harder. Everything's the hardest the first time you do it. So, but all right, man. Paul, good talking to you. Appreciate you being on here, and we'll talk to you again very soon.
Andrew, stay warm up there, my friend.
Will do. Love you, bro.
Later, man.
Bye.